Ladies and gentlemen, every great business leader, every successful innovator, and every person who has left a lasting legacy had one thing in common. They sought guidance beyond their own understanding. Imagine if the CEO of heaven himself sat at your conference table. Imagine if every plan, every contract, every investment, and every dream you had was reviewed by the author of abundance, the planner of destiny, the one who cannot fail. That is not just a dream. That is your reality. God is your consultant. When you walk into your day, you are not walking alone. You have access to the ultimate strategist. He sees opportunities you cannot see. He opens doors no human can close, and he arranges circumstances in ways your mind could never calculate. The world says rely on logic alone, but divine wisdom says in all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. Think of your life as an enterprise. Your time is your capital. Your thoughts are your investments, and your words are the contracts you sign in the Spirit. When you align those with God's principles, success becomes inevitable. When you declare that God is your consultant, you are stepping into a reality where the infinite wisdom of heaven is available to you in every detail of your life. A consultant in the natural world is hired because they see what you do not see. They bring expertise you do not have, and they offer strategies that can elevate your efforts to levels you could not reach alone. How much more powerful is it when your consultant is the God who created the heavens and the earth, who holds the blueprint of your life, and who has already prepared the path of abundance before you were even born? To say God is your consultant is to acknowledge that you are no longer limited by your own reasoning, experience, or resources, because you are connected to unlimited vision, eternal wisdom, and flawless strategy. Many people try to build success with their own intellect, leaning only on the education they received or the mentors they listened to. But even the greatest human consultant has blind spots. They may analyze the market, but they cannot control it. They may give advice on trends, but they cannot predict the unseen events that can shift an entire industry overnight. God, on the other hand, has no blind spots. He sees the end from the beginning. He knows where the opportunities lie. He knows the relationships that will be divine appointments. And he knows which paths will waste your time and which will accelerate your destiny. To align with him as your consultant is to position yourself for a level of success that cannot be derailed by human error, market crashes, or sudden obstacle. Think of how a business owner would bring their plans to a consultant. They do not sit in silence. They present their ideas. They share their goals. They show their numbers, and they ask for input. In the same way, when you take God as your consultant, you bring your plans to him in prayer. You lay out your vision, your desires, your strategies, and you ask him to refine them. And unlike human consultants who charge high fees and still cannot guarantee outcomes, God gives his counsel freely, and his wisdom always leads to certainty of success. He reviews your life blueprint and aligns it with his eternal principles, ensuring that your foundation is strong enough to carry the weight of abundance. There is a verse that says, "Commit your works to the Lord and your plans will be established." This is not poetic language. It is divine strategy. To commit your works is to make him the consultant of everything you set out to do. It is to acknowledge that no decision is too small, no choice is too insignificant, and no project is too great for him to oversee. When you treat him as your consultant, you stop moving impulsively and start moving in tension. You do not rush into opportunities without discernment. You pause, you listen, and you align. And this pause is not a delay. It is the moment where divine wisdom reorders your steps for maximum impact. Picture a boardroom with an empty chair at the head of the table. Every time you sit with your plans, imagine God occupying that chair. Imagine him reviewing the documents of your life, the strategies you have written down, the visions you carry in your heart. Imagine him crossing out what does not align with truth and circling what will bring prosperity, peace, and purpose. This visualization is not just symbolic, it is spiritual reality. The moment you acknowledge him as your consultant, heaven begins to guide your thoughts. Ideas will come that feel like inspiration, but they are divine downloads. Decisions that once felt confusing suddenly become clear, because the counselor of all counselors has spoken. You may wonder, how do you practically consult God? You consult Him by aligning with His Word. For His Word is the manual of success. You consult Him by listening for the inner voice of peace. For peace is His signature of approval. You consult Him by being willing to lay down your own understanding when it contradicts the wisdom He gives. Consultation is not just asking for advice. It is submitting to guidance. It is humbling yourself enough to say, though I think I know best, though I have experience, I choose to trust the one who sees what I cannot see. And in that humility, you unlock a level of wisdom that surpasses every book, every degree, and every earthly mentor combined. Think of the mistakes people make when they refuse consultation. They rush into partnerships that look profitable but end in betrayal. They invest in ventures that appear promising but collapse within months. They pursue opportunities that drain them of energy, money, and peace. All of these could have been avoided had they paused to consult the one who knows the unseen. God as your consultant will not only show you the right path, He will also protect you from the wrong ones. Sometimes His greatest guidance is not in the trusting divine guidance over human logic opportunities He opens, but in the doors He closes. A closed door in business, in relationships, or in finances is not rejection. It is consultation in action. It is God saying, this path will not serve you. Trust me for better. When you allow God to be your consultant, you stop carrying the heavy burden of trying to figure everything out alone. You move from striving to flowing, from confusion to clarity, from exhaustion to ease. This does not mean you stop working. It means your work is now infused with divine intelligence. Your ideas are sharper. Your timing is perfect. Your decisions are aligned. It means you are no longer building on shifting sand, but on solid rock. This is why some people seem to succeed with less effort, because they are aligned with principles that others ignore. When God consults you, He gives shortcuts that are not compromises, accelerations that are not accidents, and breakthroughs that are not temporary but lasting. The beauty of having God as your consultant is that He not only advises you on success, but He also ensures that your success does not destroy you. Many people gain wealth but lose peace. They rise in influence but collapse in character. They achieve prosperity but end up empty and dissatisfied. God consults you not only to make you successful, but to make you whole. He aligns your external victories with internal stability. He gives you abundance without sorrow, prosperity without corruption, growth without greed. He ensures that the higher you rise, the deeper your roots go into integrity and faith. When you say, God is my consultant, you are not just making a spiritual declaration. You are entering into a partnership with the source of perfect wisdom. You are saying yes to strategies that work in every season. Yes to direction that never fails. Yes to a path of success that is sustainable and eternal. You are saying yes to living above the level of chance. Yes to decisions infused with divine foresight, and yes to a destiny designed by the greatest consultant the universe has ever known. True success is not the product of endless struggle or the constant pressure of trying to force life into your own design. It is the fruit of alignment. When your thoughts, words, actions, and desires line up with God's eternal principles, you place yourself in the direct flow of His abundance. Alignment is not a mystical concept. It is practical, it is spiritual, and it is powerful. Consider how a car moves on a highway. If the wheels are misaligned, the journey is rough. The vehicle drifts off course and the tires wear out prematurely. But when the wheels are properly aligned, the car moves smoothly, efficiently, and with far less resistance. The same is true for your life. Misalignment with God's truth creates struggle, frustration, and unnecessary hardship. Alignment with His principles creates ease, clarity, and undeniable progress. Think about how much energy people waste trying to force open doors that were never meant for them. They push, they fight, they chase, but the results remain inconsistent. Then you see another person who seems to glide into opportunities, whose efforts multiply far beyond the natural, and whose life carries a fragrance of peace even in the midst of challenges. The difference is not luck. The difference is alignment. When you are aligned with God's principles, what others strive for flows toward you. You don't have to chase favor. Favor begins to chase you. You don't have to manipulate circumstances. Circumstances begin to bend in your favor. You don't have to exhaust yourself trying to control outcomes. Outcomes begin to unfold in ways better than you imagine. Alignment begins in the mind. Every thought is either in harmony with God's truth or in contradiction to it. When you entertain thoughts of fear, lack, and limitation, you are out of alignment. And that misalignment shows up in your results. But when you align your thoughts with His promises, you begin to create a different reality. You start to see opportunities instead of obstacles, possibilities instead of impossibilities, solutions instead of problems. This is why the Word says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." The transformation you seek in your external life begins with alignment in your inner life. A consultant can tell you what steps to take. But unless your mind is aligned with wisdom, you will resist the very strategy that could save you. God as your consultant aligns your thoughts first because He knows that thoughts are seeds and they always produce after their kind. Your words are the next layer of alignment. Words are not empty sounds. They are creative forces. Every word you speak is either reinforcing alignment with God's abundance or reinforcing misalignment with fear and doubt. When you declare, "I can't afford this, nothing works for me, I never succeed," you are aligning yourself with failure. But when you declare, "God is my source, opportunities are opening for me, success is flowing to me," you are aligning with prosperity. Alignment through words is not about pretending. It is about choosing the language of faith over the language of defeat. Your words consult your future. They sign agreements in the unseen realm. Speak carelessly, and you will bind yourself to misalignment. Speak faithfully, and you will release success. Then comes alignment through action. Thoughts and words set the stage, but actions are the performance. You cannot say you are aligned with generosity and then live in constant selfishness. You cannot declare faith and then act in fear. You cannot claim to trust God as your consultant and then ignore every piece of wisdom He gives. Actions prove alignment. They are the evidence that you are walking in harmony with divine strategy. Imagine a consultant giving you a detailed plan for success, and you nod your head in agreement, but refuse to follow through. The plan has no power until it is acted upon. God may give you inspiration, ideas, and instructions, but the manifestation comes only when you align your steps with those instructions. Alignment is obedience in motion. Desire also plays a role in alignment. Many people desire things that conflict with divine principles, and then they wonder why those desires bring frustration or emptiness. When your desires are aligned with God's truth, you are not only blessed, but your blessings multiply without sorrow. For example, if your desire for wealth is driven by greed, insecurity, or comparison, even if you achieve it, it will not satisfy. But if your desire for wealth is driven by a vision to serve, to uplift, to expand the kingdom principles of generosity and abundance, then your wealth comes with joy, peace, and fulfillment. Alignment purifies desire so that success does not corrupt you but completes you. Alignment also removes unnecessary resistance. Many live with constant stress because they are pushing against divine order. They cut corners, compromise integrity, or ignore spiritual laws, and then they are surprised when things collapse. Divine principles are unshakable. They are like gravity. You don't break them. You break yourself against them. When you align with them, life becomes smoother, not because there are no challenges, but because you are no longer creating self-inflicted storms. Think of a river. Water flows effortlessly within its banks. When you align your life with God's principles, you are flowing with the current of divine success. When you resist those principles, it is like rowing upstream, exhausting, frustrating, and unsustainable. True alignment with God's principles also creates acceleration. What would normally take years can happen in months. What would normally take months can happen in days. This is not magic, it is divine order. Alignment places you in the right place at the right time with the right people. It causes resources to arrive exactly when you need them. It positions you to see opportunities that others miss. Alignment is the secret behind divine timing. When you are aligned, you don't have to fear being late or missing out, because you are walking in sync with eternal wisdom. Another powerful aspect of alignment is stability. Success gained outside of alignment is fragile. It collapses when circumstances shift. But success gained through alignment is unshakable because it rests on eternal truth. A business built on deception may thrive for a season, but it will eventually crumble. A career built on manipulation may rise quickly, but it will fall just as quickly. A life built on compromise may glitter on the outside, but will rot on the inside. Alignment ensures that your success endures. It is built on principles that cannot be shaken. Truth, integrity, generosity, and faith. Alignment is also freedom. When you align with God's principles, you are no longer enslaved to the opinions of people or the pressure of competition. You stop trying to keep up with others and start walking confidently in your own path. You stop fearing what others think and start focusing on what God has said. You stop comparing your progress to someone else's and begin to measure success by divine approval, not public applause. This freedom allows you to create, to serve, to grow, and to prosper without the weight of insecurity. Alignment breaks the chains of performance-driven living and replaces it with peak-driven prosperity. When you live in alignment, you become magnetic. People sense the stability, the clarity, and the peace that radiates from you. Opportunities come not just because you chase them, but because they are drawn to the atmosphere you carry. Alignment produces attraction. It is the unseen force that brings the right people, the right doors, and the right resources into your life. And this attraction is not manipulation. It is natural. It is the overflow of a life that is tuned to the frequency of abundance. To align with God's principles is to step into a rhythm where success is no longer random but consistent. It is no longer fragile life as an enterprise, thoughts, time, and words as investments but secure. It is no longer something you strive for desperately, but something that flows naturally. Alignment is the difference between chasing life and being chased by life's blessings. When you align, you stop forcing outcomes and start experiencing divine order. And in that order, success is not a possibility, it is inevitable. Your life is not random, it is a divine enterprise. Every single day you wake up, you are managing a business that is greater than any corporation in the world because it is the business of your destiny. Most people do not realize this. They see life as a string of unrelated events, a series of obstacles, or a cycle of routines. But the truth is that every moment is part of an enterprise entrusted to you by God. You are both the steward and the investor. And whether you realize it or not, you are making decisions daily that determine whether your enterprise thrives or struggles. When you begin to see your life this way, you will approach it with the seriousness, strategy, and vision it deserves. In this enterprise, your time is your capital. Unlike money, time cannot be replenished. Once a moment passes, it never returns. Every hour spent is an investment in something, whether wise or foolish. Successful people understand that time is not to be wasted. It is the most precious asset you have. How you spend it reflects what you value and what you are aligned with. Many spend time dwelling on fear, gossip, or regret, and the return on that investment is small, painful, and empty. Others invest their time in vision, prayer, learning, serving, and creating, and the return multiplies beyond imagination. When you recognize that your time is not just passing, but being invested, you start to guard it, steward it, and sow it into things that bring eternal returns. Every minute you waste is capital burned, but every minute aligned with purpose is capital compounded. Your thoughts are the investments that grow your enterprise. They are like the seeds you place in the ground of your mind, and those seeds always bear fruit. If you sow thoughts of doubt, fear, and limitation, you harvest failure, worry, and smallness. If you sow thoughts of faith, courage, abundance, and possibility, you reap creativity, ideas, and opportunities. Your enterprise is only as strong as the quality of your thoughts. This is why the mind is the battlefield of success. A person who cannot control their thoughts cannot control the direction of their life. Every thought is an investment in your future reality, and no investment is neutral. Thoughts build or destroy, multiply or shrink, open or close door. If you want your enterprise to flourish, you must monitor the portfolio of your thoughts daily. Are you investing in ideas that produce wealth and peace, or in fears that produce loss and despair? Then there are your words. Your words are the contracts you sign in the Spirit. Just as in business, a signature binds you to an agreement, so do your words bind you to realities. When you declare, "I will never succeed," "Things never work for me," "I am always struggling," you are signing a contract with failure. The unseen realm responds to what you say, and the results appear in your life. On the other hand, when you declare, "I am aligned with divine wisdom," success flows to me. Opportunities find me. God is my source. You are signing a contract with abundance. Words are not casual. They are legally binding in the spiritual sense. This is why you must treat your mouth like a pen, writing contracts only with truth, faith, and prosperity. Successful people understand that careless speech is expensive. They guard their words the way a wise investor guards their asset. Your habits are also part of this enterprise. Habits are the systems you set up, the daily operations of your life. Just as a business needs good systems to run smoothly, your life needs strong habits that align with success. A person who says they want prosperity but has habits of laziness, disorganization, and procrastination is like a business that has a brilliant vision but no structure. It will collapse under its own weight. On the other hand, small, consistent habits of discipline, gratitude, study, generosity, and faith create compounding growth. They may not look powerful in the moment, but over time they build momentum that cannot be stopped. Habits are the infrastructure of your enterprise, the pipelines through which abundance flows. Relationships are partnerships in your enterprise. No business succeeds without partners, clients, or networks, and your life is no different. The people you surround yourself with either add to your capital or drain it. Some relationships are like assets. They increase your value, sharpen your vision, and multiply your opportunities. Others are like liabilities. They drain your energy, distract your focus, and sabotage your growth. Recognizing the difference is crucial because in your enterprise of life, the wrong partnerships can bankrupt you. God often blesses you through people, but the enemy also tries to destroy you through people. This is why alignment matters so much. When you consult God as your consultant, He directs you toward divine partnerships that increase your enterprise and warns you away from destructive ones that look appealing but are dangerous. Opportunities are contracts presented to your enterprise. They are offers to grow, to expand, to multiply. But not every opportunity is from God. Some are traps dressed as blessings, distractions dressed as promotions. This is why discernment is crucial in your enterprise. If you rush into every opportunity without consultation, you may overload your business with obligations it cannot carry. But if you bring opportunities before God, He will highlight which ones to pursue and which ones to reject. Remember, in business, every contract shapes the future of the enterprise. In life, every opportunity you say yes to shapes the future of your destiny. Wisdom is not in saying yes to everything, but in aligning with the right yes and boldly saying no to everything else. Failure and setbacks are not the end of your enterprise. They are audits. They reveal where systems were weak, where investments were poor, and where contracts were misaligned. A wise entrepreneur does not fear audits. They use them to strengthen the enterprise. In the same way, failures in life are not curses. They are signals. They show you where you must realign, rethink, and rebuild. The tragedy is not in failing, but in refusing to learn from failure. Every successful enterprise has weathered storms and survived crisis, but what separates them from failures is their willingness to adjust and realign. When God is your consultant, even failures are turned into lessons that multiply your success later. The ultimate purpose of this enterprise is not just survival, but expansion. Businesses exist to grow, to increase their influence, to serve more people. Likewise, your life enterprise is designed for growth. You are not meant to remain small, struggling, or stagnant. You are meant to expand in wisdom, influence, and impact. When your enterprise thrives, it not only blesses you but also blesses others. Your wealth becomes provision for many. Your wisdom becomes guidance for others, and your success becomes testament of divine alignment. Expansion is the natural result of an enterprise managed with God's consultation. You must also understand that in this enterprise, God is not just your consultant, He is also your silent partner. He invests in you daily by giving you breath, energy, opportunities, and grace. The least you can do is manage His investment wisely. Every time you squander your time, waste your words, or misuse your relationships, you are mishandling His capital. But when you honor Him with your thoughts, words, actions, and desires, you multiply His investment, and He continues to entrust you with more. Scripture reminds us that to those who are faithful with little, more will be given. Your life enterprise is a test of faithfulness. Your enterprise is about legacy. No business is built just for today. It is built for the future. Likewise, your life enterprise is not just about your immediate comfort, but about the impact you leave behind. Every choice you make is a brick in the building of that legacy. Will your enterprise stand as a testimony of fear and compromise, or will it stand as a monument of faith and alignment with God's principles? The answer depends on how you steward your time, thoughts, words, habits, relationships, and opportunity. Success is not accidental. It is the natural result of managing your enterprise with wisdom. There is a promise that is echoed through time. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths. These words are not simply poetic comfort. They are a divine instruction manual for success. When you allow God to be your consultant, you gain more than ideas. You gain direction. Direction is one of the most priceless resources in life because without it, even the most talented, hardworking, and gifted individual can end up going in circles. It is not enough to run fast. You must run in the right direction. It is not enough to build hard. You must build on the right foundation. Divine direction ensures that your energy is never wasted. Your efforts are not scattered, and your journey leads exactly where you are meant to go. Human wisdom is limited because it cannot see beyond the moment. We make decisions based on what appears visible, logical, or profitable now. But God sees the end from the beginning. He knows which path is filled with hidden traps, which partnership will end in betrayal, and which opportunity is an open door disguised as a dead end. When you align yourself with His direction, you are spared from the wasted years that come from trial and error. He has already walked ahead of you, prepared the path, and cleared obstacles you cannot yet see. What feels uncertain to you is already completed in His design. When you consult Him, you gain access to this foresight, and what others call intuition or instinct is for you the direct leading of the Spirit. Many times people mistake movement for progress. They are busy from dawn until night hustling, chasing, striving, yet their lives remain stuck. They cannot understand why so much energy produces so little fruit. The truth is, without direction, activity is just motion without progress. It is like running on a treadmill. You sweat, you strain, you move, but you never actually go forward. Divine direction takes you off the treadmill of life and places you on a straight path toward destiny. It ensures that every step counts, every action multiplies, and every season builds on the one before it. Divine direction is not always dramatic. Sometimes it comes as a whisper in your spirit, a deep sense of peace about one choice and unease about another. Sometimes it comes through doors that suddenly open or doors that unexpectedly close. Sometimes it comes through wise counsel, through scripture that burns in your heart, or through a vision that won't leave your mind. The method may vary, but the signature is always the same. His direction carries peace, clarity, and confirmation. It does not confuse. It does not manipulate. It does not pressure. It leads you gently but firmly, even when it challenges your comfort zone. It never leaves you in chaos. That peace is your compass. Consider how much pain people could avoid if they paused to acknowledge God before making decisions. Marriages entered without consulting Him end in heartbreak. Businesses started without His direction collapse in debt. Friendships maintained without His wisdom bring betrayal. Investments made without His foresight lead to loss. The world often teaches independence as strength, but in truth, the greatest strength is dependence. Dependence on divine direction. To acknowledge Him in all your ways is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is saying, I refuse to lean on my own understanding when infinite wisdom is available to me. When God directs your path, He often takes you the long way around. And this is where many people become impatient. They want shortcuts, quick gains, and immediate results. But shortcuts outside of God's direction often lead to dead ends. The long way may feel slower, but it is the path of preparation. Along the way, He builds your character, equips you with skills, and aligns you with people you will need later. Divine direction is not only about reaching the destination. It is about being shaped into the kind of person who can sustain the success, faith over fear, walking boldly in uncertainty waiting for you. Too many achieve success they are not prepared to carry, and it crushes. But when God directs you, He ensures that by the time you arrive, you are fully equipped to remain. Divine direction also requires trust. Many times you will not see the full picture. He may show you only the next step, not the entire staircase. He may give you a vision of the destination, but ask you to walk by faith. In the meantime, trust is essential because His ways are higher than yours, and His strategies rarely look like the world's strategies. The world says push harder, network more, fight for position. God may tell you to rest, to wait, or to take a path others overlook. To the natural mind, it may seem foolish, but to the spiritual mind, it is wisdom. Trusting His direction means you surrender your need for control and embrace His perfect guidance, even when it does not make sense in the moment. One of the blessings of divine direction is protection. Think of how many dangers you have unknowingly avoided because God ordered your steps differently. Perhaps a deal fell through and you felt disappointed, not realizing that it would have ruined you. Perhaps a door remained closed and you felt rejected, not realizing that behind it was betrayal or destruction. God's direction is not only about guiding you towards success, but also about shielding you from harm. His no is as much a blessing as His yes. Every redirection is a rescue and every delay is a protection. When you see life this way, you stop resenting closed doors and start thanking Him for them. Divine direction also gives you efficiency. With human logic, it may take years to achieve a goal. But with divine strategy, one idea can transform everything. He can position you at the right time with the right person. And a single encounter can advance you more than a decade of effort. Think of Joseph in Egypt. One moment he was in prison, the next he was in the palace. Because divine direction placed him in front of Pharaoh at the right time. When your steps are ordered, acceleration is natural. What others fight for endlessly, you receive by alignment. Another thing about divine direction is that it brings consistency. Many people experience short bursts of success that fade quickly. They cannot sustain momentum because their foundation is unstable. But when God directs your path, your growth may be steady, but it is also lasting. You rise in such a way that no storm can topple you, because your success is built on eternal principles, not temporary tricks. Consistency is a sign of divine direction. When your life begins to flow with rhythm, where victories build upon victories, you know that your path is being ordered from above. Direction from God is also deeply personal. What He tells you to do may not be what He tells someone else. His strategy for your success is tailor-made, designed uniquely for your assignment. This is why comparison is dangerous. You cannot align your life to someone else's blueprint. If God told them to move left, and you move left just because they did, you may miss the instruction He had specifically for you. Your destiny is unique and your path is unique. Divine direction frees you from the trap of imitation and places you firmly in your own lane, where your blessing is guaranteed. Divine direction gives peace in uncertainty. Life will always have unknowns, challenges, and changes. But when you know your steps are ordered, you can walk confidently even when the path is foggy. You may not know what tomorrow holds, but you know who holds tomorrow. That assurance becomes your anchor. Instead of living in fear of the unknown, you live in faith of the unseen. That is the power of direction. Your heart is steady, your focus is clear, and your destiny is secure. The world is full of voices. They come from every direction: media, society, family, friends, and even from within our own thoughts. Each voice offers advice, guidance, and opinions on what we should do, how we should live, and which path we should take. The danger is not that there are too few voices, but that there are too many. And when you allow every voice to influence your decisions, confusion is inevitable. This is why the ability to discern God's voice from the noise is one of the most vital skills for anyone who desires true success. It is not enough to hear. You must know which voice is His, because only His voice carries the wisdom that leads to life, abundance, and lasting prosperity. God speaks in many ways. Sometimes He speaks through Scripture, giving you a word that pierces your heart like it was written just for you. Sometimes He speaks through the still small voice in your spirit, the gentle nudge that directs you one way instead of another. Sometimes He speaks through the circumstances, opening doors no man can shut or closing doors you were desperately trying to force open. Sometimes He speaks through others, mentors, friends, or even strangers who unknowingly confirm what He has already placed in your heart. The challenge is not whether God is speaking. The challenge is whether you are listening with the right heart to recognize it. Discernment begins with intimacy. You cannot recognize the voice of someone you do not know. Just as a child immediately recognizes the voice of a parent in a crowded room, you too will only recognize God's voice when you spend enough time in His presence. The more you fill your heart with His word, the more you tune your spirit to His frequency. If you rarely pray, rarely meditate on His principles, and rarely seek His counsel, then when He speaks, His voice may sound foreign. But when your relationship is close, His whisper becomes unmistakable. Discernment is not built in moments of crisis. It is cultivated daily in moments of communion. One of the marks of God's voice is peace. Confusion, fear, and pressure are signs of other voices at work. When God speaks, even if the instruction challenges you or pushes you out of your comfort zone, there is still an underlying calm that anchors you. His voice does not bring torment. It brings clarity. It may demand faith, but it never breeds chaos. You can distinguish between His leading and your own anxious thoughts by testing for peace. If your heart is unsettled, restless, or forced, it is wise to pause. Peace is the divine signature. Another way to discern His voice is alignment with His principles. God will never instruct you to act in ways that contradict His truth. He will not lead you into dishonesty, manipulation, greed, or destruction. If a decision requires compromising integrity or violating eternal values, it cannot be from Him. His voice will always align with wisdom, love, and righteousness. This is why immersing yourself in timeless principles is essential, because when you know truth, you can immediately detect deception. Just as counterfeit currency is detected by those who study the real thing, false voices are exposed when you are anchored in truth. Yet, discernment is not always about rejecting the wrong. It is also about recognizing the right in a sea of good options. Sometimes the choice is not between right and wrong, but between good and best. Many opportunities may look promising, but only one align perfectly with your assignment. Discernment helps you choose not just what is acceptable, but what is excellent. This is where many people fail. They settle for what looks good to the natural eye, not realizing it is a distraction from what God prepared. Discernment keeps you focused, filtering out the merely good to pursue the divinely appointed. The world often glamorizes quick success, easy money, or popular approval. These voices scream the loudest, promising immediate satisfaction. But discernment allows you to detect the hollowest beneath the glitter. What looks shiny may be a trap. What looks small may be the seed of greatness. Discernment gives you the patience to see beyond appearances. You realize that not everything presented to you is for you, and not every open door is meant to be walked through. Some doors are traps dressed as opportunities, and only discernment can reveal the difference. Discerning God's voice also requires humility. Pride is one of the biggest obstacles to hearing Him clearly, because pride convinces you that your own wisdom is enough. When you are unwilling to admit you need His guidance, you will filter His voice through your ego and end up justifying your own desires. Humility keeps your ears open and your heart soft. It is the posture of saying, "Not my will, but your." This surrender allows God to cut through the noise of ambition and reveal the pure path. At times His voice will lead you against the current of popular opinion. While everyone else is chasing one direction, He may call you to another. This is where discernment demands courage. It is not easy to go against the grain, to decline what everyone else applauds, or to pursue a vision others cannot yet see. But discernment gives you the confidence to follow his voice, even when it isolates you, because you understand that success is not found in the approval of many, but in alignment with the one who sees the end from the beginning. Developing discernment also means testing what you hear. Not every thought that enters your mind is divine. Some are influenced by fear, some by desire, and some by outside voices that have been planted in you since childhood. Testing involves patience, waiting for confirmation, seeking counsel from trusted sources, and comparing it with truth. God is not threatened by your testing. He welcomes it because truth stands firm under examination. If a word is truly from him, it will withstand the test of time and confirmation. Another dimension of discernment is recognizing timing. Sometimes God's instruction is true, but the timing is not yet. Acting too early can be as damaging as not acting at all. Discernment helps you sense not only what to do, but when to do it. Just as seeds require the right season to grow, divine instructions flourish when executed at the appointed time. Many people miss blessings not because they heard wrong, but because they moved too soon. Discernment tunes you to his timing, ensuring that your steps are both accurate and aligned with the right season. Discerning his voice is also a protection against manipulation. There will always be people who try to sway your decisions for their own benefit. Without discernment, you may follow their persuasive words and end up enslaved to their agenda. But when you recognize God's voice, you are not easily manipulated. You are anchored in truth, immune to flattery, resistant to pressure, and unmoved by fear. This is freedom, living guided by divine wisdom, rather than the opinions of men. Discernment produces confidence. When you know you have heard his voice, you are no longer paralyzed by indecision. Fear of making the wrong move fades, because you are assured that you are guided by the ultimate consultant. Even if the path looks uncertain, you can step boldly because your confidence is not in your own ability, but in his direction. This confidence becomes a light to others who begin to notice that your steps carry precision, your choices carry weight, and your life carries fruit. There is a profound difference between human logic and divine wisdom. Human logic operates by what can be calculated, predicted, or proven by evidence in front of the eyes. It is bound by reason, limited by experience, and shaped by what appears possible within natural laws. Divine wisdom, however, transcends logic. It sees what cannot yet be seen, calls forth what is not yet visible, and lays out a path that may look foolish to the natural mind, but is perfect in its results. When you walk with God as your consultant, you must learn to lean not on your own understanding, but on his higher wisdom, because his ways are not your ways, and his thoughts are infinitely above yours. Human logic is comfortable because it provides a sense of control. It allows you to measure risk, count costs, and predict outcomes. But the truth is, human logic has limits. It cannot see hidden motives. It cannot anticipate unseen circumstances, and it cannot guarantee results. Many people follow logic and still end in failure because the unseen realities of life overturn their careful calculations. Divine wisdom, on the other hand, is rooted in perfect foresight. God does not guess, speculate, or estimate. He sees the beginning, the middle, and the end all at once, and his instructions are shaped by complete knowledge. To the logical mind, his ways may seem strange, but in the end they always prove flawless. Consider how often in history the greatest breakthroughs came not from logic, but from obedience to divine wisdom. Noah was instructed to build an ark when rain had never fallen from the sky. Logic would have laughed at such a command, but divine wisdom prepared him to survive a flood that logic could never have predicted. Abraham was told to leave his homeland for a place he had never seen. Logic would have asked for maps, guarantees, and proof, but divine wisdom led him into a covenant that made him the father of nations. The Israelites were instructed to march around Jericho silently for 7 days instead of fighting. Logic would have insisted on weapons and strategy, but divine wisdom brought the walls down with a shout. Time and again, when divine wisdom is followed over human reasoning, the impossible becomes possible. The challenge is that divine wisdom often contradicts natural instincts. Logic says hoard your resources to feel secure, but divine wisdom says give, and you will increase. Logic says fight your enemies for revenge, but divine wisdom says forgive and you will be free. Logic says push your way to the front, but divine wisdom says the last shall be first. These principles defy ordinary thinking because they are not of this world. They operate from the eternal order of God's kingdom. If you want results that surpass human limits, you must be willing to embrace wisdom that surpasses human logic. The key is trust. To follow divine wisdom requires surrendering your reliance on calculations and predictions. It demands that you believe His word, even when it does not align with what your eyes see. Faith is not blind. It is sight through another dimension. It sees what God sees even when the natural cannot confirm it yet. Faith allows you to step forward when logic tells you to freeze, to give when consulting God before every decision logic tells you to withhold, and to believe when logic tells you to quit. This is not recklessness. It is obedience to a wisdom higher than human thought. One of the greatest dangers of relying solely on logic is that it can disguise fear. People call it being practical, but often practicality is just fear dressed in reasonable words. They avoid risks because they fear loss. They settle for less because they fear failure. And they silence dreams because they fear ridicule. Divine wisdom, however, liberates you from fear because it assures you that if God has spoken, the outcome is guaranteed. Even if the path looks uncertain, His wisdom never fails. Trusting it gives you courage to do what others call impossible, because you know the one guiding you cannot lie and cannot fail. Divine wisdom also carries creativity. Logic follows patterns and repeats formulas. But wisdom from above reveals new strategies the world has never seen. This is why those who walk in it often stand out as innovators. Their ideas seem unusual at first but later are recognized as groundbreaking. Think of how many inventions, businesses, and movements were birthed because someone dared to follow an idea that seemed illogical at the time. Divine wisdom unlocks creativity that is not borrowed from culture, but flows from the Creator Himself. When you align with it, you tap into solutions that defy the ordinary. Following divine wisdom also requires patience. Logic wants immediate results because it depends on predictable cause and effect. Divine wisdom often unfolds gradually, revealing step by step, testing your faith, and developing your character along the way. This delay is not denial, it is preparation. In the waiting, you learn trust, humility, and dependence. Many miss divine wisdom because they cannot bear the patience it demands. They rush ahead with logic only to find themselves stuck, while those who wait on God's instruction move forward with lasting success. Another key to walking in divine wisdom is discernment. Not every thought or idea is wisdom from above. Some are clever but not wise, appealing but not true. Divine wisdom can be recognized by its fruit. It brings peace, clarity, and alignment with God's principles. It does not lead to destruction or compromise. When you sense a direction that aligns with integrity, produces peace in your spirit, and reflects eternal values, you can be confident it is divine. On the other hand, if a path requires you to violate truth, manipulate others, or sacrifice your peace, it may be logical to the world, but it is not wisdom from God. The beauty of divine wisdom is that it always works in the long run. Logic may bring temporary success, but divine wisdom brings lasting fruit. Logic may impress people, but wisdom impacts generations. When you look back on your life, you will not be grateful for the times you followed reason alone. You will be grateful for the times you trusted wisdom that came from above. It is those moments that lead to breakthroughs, protection, and prosperity that cannot be explained by human terms. To live aligned with divine wisdom is to embrace a lifestyle of faith, surrender, and obedience. It means being willing to look foolish for a moment in order to be proven wise forever. It means choosing eternal principles over temporary trends. It means understanding that logic has its place in calculations, but wisdom has its place in destiny. When the two collide, you must choose wisdom because it is the higher road, the road that may look narrow but leads to life. Patience is one of the most undervalued virtues in the pursuit of success. Yet, it is one of the most powerful in a world that glorifies speed, instant results, and immediate gratification. Waiting is often viewed as weakness, But divine timing is not bound by the impatience of culture. When God is your consultant, you begin to understand that success is not just about what you achieve, but when you achieve it. There are seasons for sowing, seasons for watering, and seasons for reaping. If you try to reap during a sowing season, you will find frustration. If you try to force fruit before it is ripe, you will taste bitterness. Divine timing ensures that every promise manifests at the moment it will bless you the most and harm you the least. Patience is not inactivity. It is controlled strength. It is the ability to trust that while you are waiting, something is working. Seeds buried in the ground may look forgotten, but beneath the soil, roots are forming, strength is building, and life is preparing to break through. In the same way, while you are waiting on God's timing, unseen shifts are taking place. He is aligning people, preparing opportunities, and shaping your character. Patience is what keeps you steady when nothing seems to be happening, because you know that waiting time is not wasted time. It is the gestation period of destiny. Impatience, on the other hand, is dangerous because it tempts you to settle. When the promise seems delayed, impatience whispers, "Take matters into your own hands. Lower your standards. Accept less than what was promised." Many people have destroyed their destinies, not because they lacked vision, but because they lacked patience. They settled for Ishmael when God had promised Isaac. They forced doors open when God was still preparing the right key. They mistook delay for denial and abandoned the path that would have led to greatness. Patience protects you from premature decisions that cost more in the long run. Divine timing also teaches humility. It reminds you that you are not in control of everything. The world says make it happen. But divine wisdom says wait until I open the door. Waiting tests your pride. Can you trust God's plan even when you cannot accelerate it? Can you believe He is working even when you see no evidence? Patience humbles you, breaking the illusion of control and placing you in full dependence on the one who writes your story. This humility is not weakness. It is the foundation of unshakable strength, because when success comes, you know it was orchestrated by Him, not manufactured by your own striving. Another beauty of patience is that it protects your blessing. Success that comes too early can destroy you. Wealth without maturity leads to ruin. Influence without character leads to corruption. Doors that open before you are ready can crush you under the weight of responsibility. God delays not to deny you but to develop you. Every season of waiting is equipping you with the resilience, wisdom, and integrity to carry the blessing without being destroyed by it. When the time finally comes, you will realize that the waiting was not punishment. It was preparation. Patience also reveals what truly matters. When you are forced to wait, your motives are tested. Are you pursuing success for status, or are you pursuing purpose? Are you chasing wealth for security, or are you trusting God as your source? Waiting purifies desires. If you can endure the silence, if you can keep showing up when nothing seems to change, it proves that your heart is anchored in the right place. Those who quit when the wait is long show that their foundation was shallow. Those who endure show that their roots run deep. In divine timing, there is also acceleration. While waiting may feel slow, when the appointed time arrives, things can shift instantly. Joseph spent years in prison, forgotten and hidden. But when God's timing arrived, in a single day, he went from prisoner to prime minister. Patience positions you for this kind of acceleration. What logic says should take decades can unfold in moments when you are aligned with the right season. Patience keeps you steady until that breakthrough moment comes, when suddenly everything makes sense and every delay is justified. Patience requires faith in the unseen. While you wait, doubts will whisper. Circumstances will suggest that nothing is happening. People around you may mock or question why you keep believing, but patience anchors you to the unseen reality that God's word never returns void. If He promised, it will come to pass. The waiting tests whether you believe the visible world more than His invisible faithfulness. Those who trust the unseen inherit promises that the impatient abandon. Waiting also gives you wisdom. Time reveals what emotion cannot. Many opportunities look good in the moment, but given time, their flaws are exposed. Many relationships seem right at first, but reveal their true character. With patience, rushing often blinds you to hidden dangers, while patience gives clarity. By waiting, you gain perspective. What you once thought was a missed opportunity may later prove to be protection. What you once cried over losing may later prove to be a blessing in disguise. Time reveals truth and patience gives you the strength to see it. Patience is not passive. It is active preparation. While waiting, you do not sit idly. You grow, learn, and refine yourself. Noah did not wait for the rain by doing nothing. He built the ark. David did not wait for the throne by sitting idle. He served faithfully as a shepherd and warrior. Preparation during waiting seasons ensures that when the door opens, you are ready to step through. Too many waste their waiting seasons in despair, not realizing they are opportunities to prepare for what is coming. Patience works best when paired with diligence. The world often mocks patience because it idolizes speed, but those who rush often end in regret. How many businesses fail because they scaled too quickly without building a foundation? How many marriages crumble because they were entered in haste? How many people burn out because they tried to skip the process? Patience is not glamorous, but it is what separates fleeting success from enduring legacy. Those who endure patiently are like oak trees, slow to grow, but impossible to uproot. Patience also cultivates gratitude. When success finally comes after a long wait, you treasure it more deeply. Quick victories are often taken for granted, but blessings that come after patience are savored, honored, and stewarded with care. The wait gives value to the reward. You no longer see it as ordinary. You see it as a miracle, a gift that arrived precisely when it was meant to. Gratitude grows in the soil of patience, and gratitude ensures that success multiplies instead of evaporating. Patience aligns you with peace. Impatience breeds anxiety, restlessness, and striving. You constantly feel behind as though you are missing out. But patience calms your soul. It allows you to live with assurance that you are exactly where you need to be. Even if the breakthrough has not yet arrived, it frees you from comparison because you understand that your timeline is not their timeline. It steadies you with the truth that what is yours will not pass you by, and no force can keep you from what God has appointed for you. Obedience is the bridge between hearing God's direction and experiencing His promises. It is not enough to receive guidance, not enough to feel inspired by divine instruction. You must act on it. Many people hear clearly what they should do, but fail to follow through because obedience often requires sacrifice, discipline, and trust. Yet obedience is the proof of faith, the evidence that you believe the one who gave the instruction. Without it, guidance is wasted potential. With it, guidance becomes transformation. Every miracle in Scripture, every breakthrough in history was triggered not by hearing alone, but by someone bold enough to obey. Obedience is rarely convenient. It often comes at moments when logic argues against it, when emotions resist it, and when circumstances make it appear foolish. Imagine Peter being told to cast his net again after a night of fruitless fishing. Logic told him it was useless. Experience told him it was a waste. But obedience brought in a net-breaking harvest. Imagine the widow of Zarephath asked to give her last meal to a prophet in the middle of famine. Fear said, hold on to what little she had. Logic said, feed herself and her child first. But obedience multiplied her supply until the famine ended. Again and again, obedience opens the door to provision, protection, and promotion. Because obedience honors God's wisdom over human reasoning, obedience is also immediate. Delayed obedience is often just another form of disobedience. When God gives an instruction, He does so with precise timing. To wait until it feels convenient is to risk missing the season. The Israelites delayed entering the promised land out of fear, and when they later tried to go in on their own timing, they were defeated. Timing matters. When God says move, obedience requires you to move. Even if you cannot see the full picture, procrastination may feel safe, but it is actually costly because doors do not remain open forever. Another dimension of obedience is completeness. Partial obedience is still disobedience. Many people want to edit God's instructions, doing the parts that are comfortable while ignoring the parts that challenge them. Saul spared what he thought was valuable after being commanded to destroy it, and as a result he lost his kingdom. True obedience is total, not selective. It means surrendering your preferences, opinions, and desires and fully aligning with the instruction given. Anything less dilutes the power of the promise attached. Obedience also requires trust in unseen outcomes. Often God does not explain why He is asking you to do something. He may give a command without showing you the reason to obey in such moments as to declare, "I trust your wisdom more than my understanding." This is faith in action. You may not know why He asked you to take a certain step, avoid a certain path, or give in a certain way, but your obedience sets in motion a chain of events that you cannot yet see. Many times it is only in hindsight that you understand the significance of your obedience. In the moment you simply trust. The enemy of obedience is pride. Pride convinces you that you know better, that your reasoning is superior, and that God's instruction is optional. Pride led Adam and Eve to disobey a simple command, and the consequences rippled across humanity. Pride makes obedience feel burdensome, while humility makes obedience feel like honor. To obey God is to acknowledge His lordship over your life. To say, "You are wiser than me, and I will follow even when I don't understand." Obedience flows naturally from a humble heart that recognizes God as the ultimate authority. Obedience is also a test of love. Love is not proven by words but by action. Jesus said, "If you love me, keep my commandments." To obey is to demonstrate love. It is the ultimate expression of devotion because it costs you something: your will, your comfort, your control. When you obey, you declare that your love is more than sentiment. It is loyalty. Obedience, peace as the sign of alignment, transforms faith from theory into reality. It makes your walk with God tangible, visible, and fruitful. There is also a connection between obedience and blessing. Over and over the pattern is clear. Blessing follows obedience. Not because God is transactional, but because His instructions are pathways to life. When He says forgive, it is not to burden you. It is to set you free from bitterness. When He says give, it is not to deplete you. It is to position you for increase. When He says wait, it is not to frustrate you. It is to protect you from premature failure. Every command carries within it the seed of blessing, and obedience activates it. Those who obey walk into provision, peace, and purpose, while those who resist remain stuck in cycles of struggle. Obedience often looks small, but its impact is great. Nonan almost missed his healing because he despised the simplicity of dipping in the Jordan 7 times. He wanted something dramatic, but healing was tied to a simple act of obedience. Many times the instructions you receive may seem insignificant. Call someone, apply for that opportunity, write down that idea, pray at that hour. Yet, obedience to small instructions often opens doors to great miracles. Greatness is often hidden in small acts of faithfulness. Obedience also builds trust for the future. Each time you obey and see the fruit of it, your faith grows. You begin to realize that God's instructions are never random. They are always purposeful. This builds a track record in your spirit, a history of trust, so that when bigger instructions come, you can obey with confidence. Obedience is like a muscle. The more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. Small obediences prepare you for greater ones, and each step builds momentum toward destiny. Sometimes obedience will cost you relationships, opportunities, or comfort. People may not understand why you are making certain choices. They may mock, resist, or even abandon you. But obedience is never about pleasing people. It is about aligning with God. Those who obey stand apart because they are willing to endure misunderstanding for the sake of destiny. History remembers them not for their comfort, but for their courage. The cost of obedience is temporary, but the reward is eternal. Obedience also creates alignment. When you follow divine instruction, your life begins to flow in harmony with heaven's rhythm. Things that once felt forced start to move smoothly. Opportunities align, doors open, and resources flow. Not because you manipulated them, but because your obedience positioned you correctly. Disobedience creates friction and struggle. Obedience creates alignment and ease. It does not mean there will be no challenges, but it means you will always find provision for the path you are on, because it is the one God ordained. Obedience transforms you. It is not only about what you achieve, but about who you become. Each act of obedience shapes your character, humbles your heart, and aligns you more with God's nature. Over time, obedience develops resilience, discipline, and maturity. It takes you from being driven by impulse to being led by principle. The true reward of obedience is not just external success, but internal transformation. You become a vessel fit for greater purpose. A life aligned not with human ambition, but with divine destiny. Faith in God's timing is one of the hardest lessons to learn. Yet it is the very foundation of peace and success in life. Human nature is impatient. We want results instantly, breakthroughs immediately, and blessings without delay. But divine timing does not operate according to human clocks. It is higher, wiser, and always perfect. To live aligned with God's wisdom, you must not only trust His direction, but also His schedule. The right thing at the wrong time can be just as damaging as the wrong thing altogether. Faith in God's timing is the assurance that He knows when to release opportunities, when to open doors, and when to withhold something for your protection and preparation. When you look at nature, you see how divine timing is woven into everything. Seeds do not sprout instantly. They require seasons of watering, sunlight, and waiting. A farmer cannot rush the harvest no matter how much he desires it. In the same way, the seeds of purpose in your life require time to develop. Rushing the process leads to premature results that cannot sustain themselves. Faith in timing means being willing to wait with trust, knowing that every season serves a purpose. Some are for planting, some for pruning, and some for reaping. Without this faith, impatience will drive you to force outcomes that are not yet ready, and instead of blessing, they bring burden. The waiting season often feels uncomfortable because it exposes your dependence on control. People like to plan, predict, and guarantee outcomes. But waiting on God strips you of the illusion of control and teaches you surrender. It is in the waiting that faith is refined. Do you still believe even when nothing is changing? Do you still trust when doors remain closed? Faith in timing means believing that silence is not absence, delay is not denial, and waiting is not wasted time. In reality, waiting seasons are often seasons of preparation. While it seems like nothing is happening on the outside, everything is being arranged behind the scenes. Relationships are being aligned, resources are being prepared, and you are being developed into the person who can handle the blessing when it arrives. Impatience has destroyed many destinies. Think of those who could not wait for the right moment and took matters into their own hands. Abraham and Sarah, wary of waiting for the promised child, tried to manufacture the promise through Hagar. The result was conflict that lasted for generations. King Saul, impatient to wait for the prophet Samuel, offered a sacrifice he had no authority to make. His impatience cost him the kingdom. These examples remind us that moving ahead of God's timing always carries consequences. What looks like a shortcut is actually a detour that prolongs the journey. Faith in timing prevents you from sabotaging your own destiny by acting too soon. On the other hand, waiting produces maturity. When you are forced to wait, you develop patience, discipline, and resilience. These qualities are not optional. They are necessary for sustaining the blessings you seek. Without patience, wealth becomes mismanaged. Without discipline, influence becomes corrupted. Without resilience, success crumbles under pressure. The waiting season builds within you the character required to handle the next season. To resist waiting is to resist growth. Faith in timing means embracing the season you are in, trusting that it is shaping you for what is ahead. Faith in God's timing also protects you from discouragement. Many give up because they expect instant results. They start a business, a ministry, a vision, or a new habit, and when fruit does not appear immediately, they assume it has failed. But the absence of immediate results does not mean failure. It often means process. The oak tree does not grow overnight, yet it becomes one of the strongest trees on earth. Likewise, your dream may be in seed form today, but with faith and patience, it will become unshakable in time. Faith in timing empowers you to keep sowing, keep watering, and keep believing even when evidence is not yet visible. Another dimension of faith in timing is rest. When you truly believe that God's timing is perfect, you release the anxiety of trying to control outcomes. You no longer live in constant stress, striving to make everything happen by your own effort. Instead, you rest in the assurance that what is meant for you will arrive at the right time and nothing can stop it. Rest is not passivity. It is active trust. It means you keep working diligently, but without the weight of worry. You move forward, but without panic. You plan, but you also surrender. Resting in God's timing brings peace in the middle of uncertainty, because you know that the future is not in your hands but in His. Faith in timing also reveals humility. To trust the divine schedule is to admit that you do not know best. Human pride wants to dictate when things should happen, but humility bows to a higher wisdom. It recognizes that God sees the beginning, the middle, and the end while you see only a fragment. To submit to His timing is to honor His authority and accept His sovereignty. This humility positions you for greater grace, because grace flows to those who trust, not those who resist. There is also a joy that comes from alignment with divine timing. When you wait and then see the breakthrough come at the exact right moment, it fills you with gratitude and awe. You realize that had it come earlier, you would not have been ready, and had it come later, you might have missed it. The precision of divine timing makes the blessing even sweeter, because it reveals the care and attention of a God who knows you intimately. Every detail, every delay, every door closed and then opened, it all fits into a perfect pattern that only He could design. Faith in timing turns frustration into expectation, because you know the longer the wait, the greater the preparation for what is to come. Faith in timing also protects you from comparison. In a world where people constantly measure their lives against others, it is easy to feel behind. You see others achieving success, entering relationships, or receiving opportunities, and you wonder why your turn has not come. But when you believe in divine timing, you stop comparing. You understand that your path is unique, your season is different, and your story cannot be rushed. Comparison loses its power because you are anchored in the confidence that your moment will come exactly when it is supposed to. Faith in God's timing produces freedom. Freedom from worry, freedom from rushing, freedom from envy, and freedom from regret. You no longer live burdened by the need to control, but liberated by trust. You wake up each day knowing that if today is for sowing, you will sow faithfully. If today is for waiting, you will wait patiently. If today is for reaping, you will reap joyfully. Every day has meaning because every day is part of a larger plan. And when the appointed time arrives, nothing and no one can stop the manifestation of what has been promised. Faith in timing is not passive resignation. It is active confidence in a God who is never late, never early, but always right on time. When you commit to walking with God as your consultant, you cannot ignore the reality of spiritual opposition. Every time you align your life with divine principles, every time you choose obedience over compromise, and every time you dare to pursue a purpose greater than yourself, resistance will come. The moment you step into God's plan, forces contrary to His will rise to discourage, distract, or derail you. This is not something to fear, but something to be aware of, because awareness gives you strength and preparation. Recognizing that opposition is inevitable allows you to interpret challenges not as signs of failure, but as confirmation that you are on the right path. Spiritual opposition rarely appears in obvious forms. It does not always come as a direct attack that you can clearly identify. More often it is subtle, disguised as frustration, confusion, doubt, or unnecessary conflict. Sometimes it manifests through discouraging thoughts, whispering that you are unworthy or incapable. Other times it comes through people, critics, skeptics, or even well-meaning loved ones who tell you to abandon your path because it looks too risky or illogical. Spiritual resistance can also appear in external circumstances, doors closing, delays piling up, or unexpected difficulties that make you question whether you heard God correctly. Without discernment, you may mistake this opposition for a sign to quit, when in truth, it is evidence that you are pressing into territory that matters. Every great vision faces opposition. Joseph dreamed of leadership and was thrown into a pit by his brothers, sold into slavery, and imprisoned unjustly before reaching the palace. David was anointed king as a boy, but spent years running for his life from Saul before sitting on the throne. Nehemiah set out to rebuild Jerusalem's walls and immediately faced ridicule, sabotage, and threats. Even Jesus, the embodiment of divine purpose, was opposed at every step. From the wilderness temptation to the cross, these stories reveal a consistent pattern. Opposition intensifies in proportion to the greatness of the assignment. If your journey feels unusually difficult, it may be because your destiny carries unusual significance. The danger is not in the opposition itself, but in how you respond to it. Many people, when faced with resistance, assume they must have missed God's direction. They think if this were really God's will, it would be easier. But the truth is often the opposite. The enemy does not waste resources fighting someone who poses no threat. Resistance is often a signal that you are aligned with a divine purpose that threatens darkness. Instead of seeing obstacles as reasons to quit, you must learn to interpret them as confirmations that you are exactly where you should be. Faith allows you to keep moving, not in spite of opposition, but through it, confident that what is against you cannot overcome what is within you. Spiritual opposition is also designed to test your endurance. Anyone can stay motivated when things are easy. The true test of faith is whether you remain steadfast when nothing seems to be working in your favor. Opposition pushes you to deepen your reliance on God, to pray more fervently, to sharpen your vision, and to clarify your commitment. Without resistance, faith remains shallow and untested. With resistance, it becomes strong, resilient, and unshakable. Just as muscles grow under pressure, your spiritual capacity grows under opposition. What feels like an attack may actually be training, preparing you to carry the weight of greater blessings ahead. It is also important to understand that spiritual opposition often targets your mind. The battlefield of faith is primarily mental. Doubt, fear, worry, and discouragement are the weapons most often used to weaken your resolve. If the enemy can convince you to give up in your thoughts, the battle is already won. This is why guarding your mind is crucial. Filling it with truth, affirming promises, and rejecting lies becomes your shield against subtle attacks. Victory begins not in external circumstances, but in your ability to hold fast to what God has said, even when everything around you screams the opposite. Sometimes opposition even serves as redirection. Not every closed door is an enemy attack. Some are divine kingdom principles: integrity, generosity, obedience, protection. The wisdom lies in discerning the difference. If a door closes but peace remains, you can be assured it was not meant for you at this time. If resistance arises, but you feel compelled to persevere, then it is a test of faith, not a signal to retreat. Discernment keeps you from misinterpreting challenges. It helps you distinguish between opposition meant to strengthen you and guidance meant to redirect you. Both are tools in God's hand to keep you aligned with His perfect plan. When you face opposition, it is vital not to fight with the same weapons the world uses. Anger, manipulation, revenge, or despair will only drain your energy and derail your focus. The true weapons of victory are spiritual: prayer, faith, patience, love, and perseverance. Opposition is not overcome by reacting in the flesh, but by standing firm in the spirit. This does not mean passivity. It means choosing strategies that align with higher wisdom. When you respond with integrity and faith, even your enemies end up serving your growth. What was meant to harm you becomes the very tool that lifts you higher. Another truth about opposition is that it often precedes breakthrough. The darkest nights often come just before dawn. The fiercest resistance often comes just before release. Many give up at the very edge of their miracle because the pressure feels unbearable. But if they had endured a little longer, they would have seen the breakthrough waiting on the other side. Opposition grows most intense when the enemy knows you are close to advancing. Faith in those moments requires stubborn endurance, the refusal to quit, and the assurance that if you do not faint, you will reap in due season. It is also worth remembering that opposition exposes weakness. It reveals where your faith still wavers, where your patience is thin, or where your trust is incomplete. Instead of resenting opposition, use it as a mirror to identify areas that need growth. Each challenge becomes a teacher, showing you where to strengthen your foundation. If you allow it, opposition will refine you until nothing can move you. What once shook you will eventually strengthen you. The very resistance that tried to break you will become the reason you are unshakable. The most powerful perspective shift is to stop seeing opposition as an enemy and start seeing it as evidence of destiny. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" begin asking, "What is this preparing me for?" With this mindset, every obstacle becomes an opportunity, every setback a setup, and every trial a training ground. Faith reframes opposition as part of the journey, not a detour from it. Those who understand this truth carry unshakable peace. They do not panic when storms arise, because they know storms cannot cancel purpose. They do not crumble under pressure, because they know pressure only produces perseverance. They do not fear opposition, because they know greater is He that is within them than anything that rises against them. Faith in the midst of opposition does not deny the challenge, but declares that it cannot define the outcome. Walking with God as your consultant requires more than listening to His wisdom. It demands obedience and action. Wisdom without obedience is useless, and knowledge without implementation produces no transformation. Many hear divine guidance, sense clear nudges in their spirit, or receive confirmation after confirmation, yet hesitate to act because of fear, doubt, or comfort. But faith is never passive. Faith is movement. It is stepping out when everything in your natural mind says wait. It is obeying even when you do not see the outcome. Without action, obedience remains incomplete. And without obedience, wisdom cannot fulfill its purpose in your life. Obedience is the highest demonstration of trust. To say, "I believe," is easy. To prove belief through action is what separates those who merely talk faith from those who live it. When God instructs you to forgive someone who wronged you, logic may protest, but obedience brings freedom. When He leads you to give, when resources look scarce, logic warns of loss, but obedience unlocks provision. When He nudges you to take a step toward a dream that seems impossible, hesitation tells you to wait, but obedience opens doors that logic could never predict. Each act of obedience becomes a seed planted into the soil of destiny, and every harvest in your life will be traced back to seeds of obedience sown in faith. One of the challenges is that obedience often feels inconvenient. It rarely fits into your schedule, your comfort zone, or your preconceived plans. When Noah was instructed to build the ark, it required decades of hard labor, ridicule from others, and complete abandonment of his personal comfort. When Abraham was called to sacrifice Isaac, obedience meant laying down the very promise he had waited for years to receive. When Moses confronted Pharaoh, it required courage to stand against the most powerful ruler of his time. In each case, obedience looked costly in the moment, but produced blessings beyond imagination in the long run. Obedience may cost you comfort temporarily, but disobedience costs you destiny eternally. Another truth is that partial obedience is still disobedience. Many try to obey selectively, doing only what feels reasonable while ignoring the parts that feel inconvenient. But selective obedience cannot unlock the fullness of blessing. Saul obeyed partially when he spared the best livestock and King Ag, despite being instructed to destroy everything. His compromise cost him the kingdom. True obedience is complete, immediate, and unconditional. It does not wait for convenience. It responds in faith even when the cost is high. To delay or dilute obedience is to rob yourself of the fullness of what God intends for you. Obedience also requires courage, because it often leads you into unknown territory. God rarely shows you the entire path in advance. He gives you one step at a time, requiring trust for the next. This is why so many hesitate. They want guarantees before moving. But faith does not operate with guarantees. It operates with assurance. Assurance that the one who called you is faithful. Assurance that His plan is good, and assurance that His wisdom never fails. Every great journey of destiny begins with a single step of obedience. That step may feel small, but it sets in motion a chain of events beyond your imagination. Action proves belief. If you truly believe in divine wisdom, your actions will reflect it. If you say you trust God as your consultant, but continue to act based solely on your own logic, your words are empty. The test of faith is always in the doing. It is in the risk you take, the decisions you make, and the sacrifices you embrace. Even the smallest act of obedience can carry eternal weight. When the widow of Zarephath obeyed the prophet's instruction to give her last meal, her obedience sustained her through famine. When the servants at the wedding filled jars with water at Jesus' command, their obedience turned water into wine. The miracles were not random. They were unlocked by action rooted in obedience. Fear is one of the greatest enemies of obedience. Fear asks, what if I fail? What if it doesn't work? What if people mock me? But faith asks, what if God shows up? What if this step changes everything? What if obedience brings breakthrough? The difference between fear and faith is focus. Fear focuses on what could go wrong, while faith focuses on who is leading the way. When you shift your focus from your weakness to God's strength, fear loses its grip, and obedience becomes possible. Obedience also develops discipline. Every time you obey, you strengthen your ability to hear clearly, respond quickly, and trust deeply. This creates a cycle where hearing leads to doing, and doing leads to greater clarity. Many wonder why they cannot hear God clearly, but often it is because they have ignored previous instructions. Why would God give new direction if past instructions remain unfulfilled? Obedience keeps the channel of communication open while disobedience clogs it. The more you obey, the clearer His voice becomes and the stronger your confidence grows. Another dimension of obedience is perseverance. Sometimes obedience requires not just a single act but consistent action over time. It may mean showing up daily, suing faithfully, working diligently, or persisting in prayer. It may mean continuing to forgive every time resentment arises, or continuing to give even when lack surrounds you. Obedience is not always dramatic. Often it is steady, unseen, and uncelebrated. Yet it is this quiet, consistent obedience that produces lasting fruit. Sudden breakthroughs are usually the result of long-term obedience that accumulated unseen until the appointed time. It is also important to remember that obedience blesses not only you but also others. Your decision to act in faith can ripple across generations. Abraham's obedience birthed a covenant blessing that still endured. Ruth's obedience to follow Naomi led to a lineage that produced King David and eventually the Messiah. Your obedience may feel personal, but its impact is generational. Conversely, your disobedience can also carry consequences beyond yourself. What you choose today will echo tomorrow, shaping not only your destiny, but also the lives connected to you. Obedience is the currency of the kingdom. It is the proof of love, the evidence of trust, and the pathway to blessing. You cannot claim to love God yet refuse His instructions, because love without obedience is sentiment, not truth. You cannot claim to trust Him yet cling to your own way, because trust without action is illusion, not faith. Every time you obey, you demonstrate alignment with His will, and that alignment positions you for provision, protection, and promotion. Obedience is not about rules but relationship. It is not the rigid following of commands, but the joyful response of love. When you know that the one guiding you is good, faithful, and loving, obedience stops feeling like a burden and starts becoming a privilege. You realize that every instruction is not to restrict you but to protect you, to guide you into fullness, and to align you with destiny. The more you obey, the more you see the wisdom of His ways, and the more your heart delights in following. True success cannot be measured by numbers in a bank account, the size of a house, or the recognition of a crowd. Those things may reflect accomplishment, but they do not define real success. Genuine success is measured by alignment, your life walking in step with God's purpose, your actions reflecting His principles, your decisions guided by His wisdom, and your heart anchored in His peace. Without alignment, wealth feels empty, achievements feel hollow, and recognition feels fleeting. With alignment, even simple living carries a richness the world cannot understand. To walk in alignment is to live a life where every part of you, your vision, your goals, your values, your relationships is connected to the eternal flow of God's will. The world often paints success as something you chase. Work harder, climb faster, push stronger, and maybe you will achieve it. But alignment reveals that true success is not about frantic chasing. It is about positioning. When your life is aligned, blessings flow naturally because you are in the current of divine provision. Just as a river carries whatever is placed within it downstream, God's flow carries those who are aligned with Him into opportunities, favor, and abundance. Misalignment, on the other hand, leaves you struggling against the current, exhausted, and frustrated. Many people are not failing because they lack ability, but because they are misaligned. They are pursuing goals never meant for them, chasing approval that does not matter or building dreams not anchored in eternal truth. Alignment begins with values. If your values are rooted in greed, pride, or fear, no matter how high you climb, your success will crumble. But when your values are grounded in integrity, service, love, and faith, your success is built on a foundation that storms cannot destroy. Success built on deception may rise quickly, but it collapses just as fast. Success built on truth may take longer, but it lasts forever. The question is not just what you are building, but what you are building upon. Alignment with divine benevolence ensures that your foundation is unshakable. Peace is one of the clearest indicators of alignment. You may be busy, but do you have peace? You may be achieving, but do you sleep well at night? You may have recognition, but do you feel whole within? Success without peace is failure disguised as achievement. Many trade peace for profit, integrity for advancement, and joy for status. Yet in the end, they discover they gained the world but lost themselves. Alignment restores peace because you are no longer striving against truth. You are flowing with it. When your decisions, relationships, and pursuits align with God's wisdom, you walk in a calm assurance that no amount of money or applause can buy. Another indicator of alignment is fruitfulness. Fruitfulness is not just about producing results, but producing the right results. A tree may grow tall, but if it bears no fruit, it serves little purpose. In the same way, a person may achieve much by the world's standards, but fail to bear the fruit of love, generosity, wisdom, and impact. Alignment ensures that your efforts multiply into blessings, not just for yourself but for others. When your success nourishes others, lifts communities, strengthens families, and honors God, it is true fruitfulness. Anything less is empty achievement. Alignment also protects you from burnout. Misalignment drains energy because you are forcing outcomes that were never meant for you. You push harder but the doors remain shut. You invest more but the results disappoint. The struggle is not always in effort but in direction. When you are aligned, effort feels purposeful and even energizing. Work becomes worship, goals become assignments, and progress becomes natural. Burnout often reveals not that you are doing too much, but that you are doing the wrong things, or doing the right things with the wrong motives. Alignment restores clarity so that your energy flows into what truly matters. Another truth about alignment is that it simplifies life. Misalignment brings chaos, scattered priorities, conflicting goals, and constant confusion. But alignment brings clarity. You know what to say yes to and what to refuse. You recognize which opportunities are right and which distractions to avoid. You no longer chase every door because you trust the right one will open at the right time. Alignment creates focus, and focus creates progress. Many live overwhelmed not because they lack time, but because they lack alignment. Once they align with divine purpose, distractions lose their pull and life regains simplicity. Alignment also redefines prosperity. Prosperity is not just material wealth, it is wholeness. It is thriving in spirit, mind, body, and relationships. When you are aligned, you prosper in all these areas because you are not sacrificing one for the other. You are not rich in money but bankrupt in relationships. You are not successful in career but empty in soul. You are balanced, whole, and fulfilled. This is prosperity that cannot be stolen because it is not rooted in external circumstances but in internal alignment. One of the greatest benefits of alignment is impact. True success is not measured by what you accumulate, but by what you contribute. Misaligned people may gain recognition, but their legacy fades quickly. Aligned people, even if unseen by the masses, leave impact that outlives them. A teacher who invests in students, a parent who raises children in truth, an entrepreneur who serves obstacles, become opportunities through faith with integrity. All may not have global fame, but their aligned actions ripple through generations. Alignment ensures your life matters beyond the span of your years. Living aligned also removes the burden of comparison. Misalignment drives people to measure their success against others, leading to envy, insecurity, and striving. But alignment teaches you that your lane is unique. You no longer need to match someone else's timeline, income, or recognition. You are not behind or ahead. You are right where you need to be. Comparison loses power when you are aligned, because your only goal is to fulfill the purpose assigned to you, not to compete with anyone else. Alignment produces contentment, and contentment is one of the rarest forms of wealth. Alignment requires constant adjustment. Life pulls you in many directions and distractions are everywhere. Daily choices either bring you closer to alignment or pull you away from it. This is why reflection, prayer, and discernment are essential. Just as a compass continually points north, you must continually realign your actions with divine wisdom. Small misalignments over time can lead to large detours, but consistent recalibration ensures you remain on track. Success is not one grand decision, but the accumulation of daily choices rooted in alignment. Perhaps the greatest joy of alignment is freedom. You are free from the weight of pretending, free from chasing what doesn't matter, free from the slavery of public opinion, and free from the anxiety of missing out. Alignment allows you to live authentically, to wake each day with clarity, and to end each night with peace. You no longer measure yourself by worldly definitions of success, but by eternal alignment with purpose. And that freedom is success in its purest form, unshakable, lasting, and deeply fulfilling. True faith is not tested in moments of comfort, but in seasons of uncertainty. When everything is clear, when the path is smooth, and when provision is visible, trust requires little effort. But when the way is hidden, when resources seem scarce, and when tomorrow looks uncertain, faith becomes the anchor that keeps the heart steady. Faith is not merely believing that God exists. It is believing that He is faithful, that His promises are true, and that His plan is unfolding even when your eyes cannot yet see it. This kind of faith is not a passive hope. It is an active force shaping thoughts, guiding decisions, and sustaining courage. Many imagine faith as a feeling, but feelings shift like waves. Real faith is a decision, a deep choice to stand firm, even when emotions waver. You may feel fear, but faith declares, I will not bow to it. You may feel lack, but faith says, provision is already on its way. You may feel abandoned, but faith whispers, I am never alone. Feelings may betray you, but faith always points you back to truth. The measure of faith is not in the absence of fear, but in the refusal to let fear dictate your step. Faith requires vision beyond sight. Sight sees obstacles. Faith sees opportunities. Sight sees scarcity. Faith sees supply. Sight sees defeat. Faith sees victory already written. To walk by faith is to lift your gaze above what is visible and fix it on what is eternal. The physical may shout impossibility, but the spiritual whispers assurance. Every breakthrough in history was born when someone chose to believe beyond sight. The difference between those who crumble and those who rise is not circumstance but faith. Faith also reshapes speech. Words have power. They create atmosphere, build expectation, and influence outcomes. A faith-filled heart cannot speak defeat because it knows that words plant seeds in the soil of life. Complaining magnifies problems, but declaring truth magnifies solutions. Speaking faith is not denial, it is alignment. When you declare abundance in the face of lack, healing in the face of sickness, or breakthrough in the face of delay, you are aligning your words with the higher reality of divine promise. Faith speaks not according to what is seen, but according to what is believed. Patience is the companion of faith. Many lose their blessing, not because it was denied, but because they gave up too soon. Faith without patience becomes restless, demanding instant results. But true faith trusts timing as much as outcome. A seed takes time to grow. No matter how much you water it, it cannot bear fruit before its appointed season. In the same way, faith understands that waiting is not wasting. Every delay is preparation. Every pause is formation, and every season has purpose. Impatience reveals doubt, but patience reveals trust. Faith also produces action. Believing without acting is like holding a key, but refusing to open the door. Action proves faith. When you apply for opportunities even when others doubt you, when you give generously even when resources feel tight, when you step into ventures even when the outcome is uncertain, you are demonstrating living faith. Faith that never moves is only theory. but faith that acts changes lives. Every step in obedience is a declaration. I believe provision will meet me there. One of the greatest battles of faith is against doubt. Doubt whispers constantly. What if it doesn't work? What if you fail? What if you lose everything? Doubt magnifies the risk, but faith magnifies the promise. Doubt looks backward. Faith looks forward. Doubt paralyzes. Faith mobilizes. Doubt is loud in moments of silence, but faith silences doubt with remembrance. Remembrance of past victories, past provisions, past faithfulness. When doubt rises, faith recalls. If he did it before, he will do it again. Faith also thrives in gratitude. Gratitude is the soil in which faith grows. A thankful heart sees blessings where others see burdens. Gratitude shifts focus from what is missing to what is present, from what is delayed to what has already been given. The grateful person naturally strengthens faith because they remember how every good thing has come from divine supply. Gratitude opens the door for more, for it demonstrates trust that provision is not random but consistent. Faith and gratitude are inseparable companions. Another dimension of faith is boldness. Faith dares to step into arenas others avoid. It dares to dream bigger, risk higher, and walk farther. Boldness is not arrogance. It is confidence rooted in trust. It is saying, I may not know how, but I know who. Faith-driven boldness inspires others because courage is contagious. When one person rises in faith, it sparks courage in those around them. The world is changed not by the hesitant, but by the bold who dared to act in faith. Faith also brings stability in storms. Life will always carry challenges, financial strain, relational tension, health struggles, unexpected losses. But faith turns storms into classrooms. Instead of drowning in fear, the faithful heart asks, what am I meant to learn here? How will this grow me? Faith does not eliminate storms, but it ensures survival and growth through them. A storm may shake circumstances, but faith ensures it never shakes identity. Stability in crisis is the mark of deep community strengthens faith. Alone doubt can grow louder. Together faith multiplies. Surrounding yourself with others who believe, who speak encouragement, who live with hope, creates an atmosphere where faith thrives. Isolation often breeds fear, but connection sustains courage. True faith communities remind one another of truth. When one's own strength feels low, they lift, they speak life, they model persistence. Faith was never designed to be walked alone. It grows strongest in shared commitment. Faith is also tested by generosity. It is easy to cling tightly to resources, fearing lack. But faith proves itself when you can release, trusting that what you give multiplies back. Generosity is an act of faith, declaring that supply does not end with what you hold, but flows endlessly from its true source. The generous live in cycles of abundance because faith keeps their hands open. Fear closes hands, but faith opens them wider. Faith transforms identity. You cease to see yourself as weak, limited, or disadvantaged. Faith redefines you as chosen, capable, and equipped. It reminds you that you are not defined by circumstance, but by promise. With faith, you carry yourself differently. Shoulders lifted, eyes steady, heart calm. Faith anchors you in a reality that transcends the visible, giving you a confidence that cannot be shaken by temporary setback. The journey of faith is lifelong. It is not a single leap, but daily steps. Some days are strong, others waver, but the power of faith is not in perfection. It is in persistence. Every time you choose to trust again, to rise again, to declare again, your faith grows deeper. Over time, it becomes unshakable, a steady light that guides your life and inspires others. True success is not in never doubting, but in always returning to faith. When destiny is secured by God, there is no power strong enough to undo it, no opposition loud enough to silence it, and no failure great enough to erase it. To walk in the assurance of a secured destiny is to live free from the anxieties that bind most people. It means knowing that life is not a random sequence of events, but a carefully orchestrated design drawn by the hand of the Creator. A secured destiny does not mean the absence of trials, but it does mean the presence of victory woven into every trial. It means every detour leads back to the right path, every setback becomes a setup, and every delay hides within it a greater unfolding. Many live as though their future is fragile, as though one mistake can destroy everything, or as though the decisions of others can dictate their success. But when your destiny is secured in divine purpose, the weight shifts from your shoulders to God's. It is not up to you to make everything work perfectly. It is up to you to walk in alignment and obedience. The master designer holds the blueprint. He sees the end from the beginning and has already written the conclusion of your story. This removes the crippling fear of missing out or being left behind because nothing and no one can block what is already secured. Living with a secured destiny transforms the way you face challenges. Where others see obstacles, you see opportunity for growth. Where others collapse under pressure, you rise with resilience because you know the ending is victory. You can endure the middle without despair. Imagine reading a book when you already know the hero triumphs. Every challenge they face becomes exciting instead of terrifying because you are confident of the outcome. Life with God is the same. The assurance of a secured destiny makes every battle bearable and every storm temporary. There is also a deep peace that flows from this security. The restless heart constantly fears the future, fears loss, fears failure, fears insignificance. But the heart anchored in divine destiny rests in the knowledge that its path is guided. This peace is not ignorance of reality. It is superiority over it. Peace says, I do not need to control everything, because the one who does is already in control. It releases the obsession with predicting outcomes or calculating every possibility. Instead, it embraces trust, allowing each step to unfold with confidence. Destiny secured by God also means provision is secured. You cannot walk a divine path without divine resources. Just as a king provides for his ambassadors, God provides for those walking in his calling. Every need is accounted for, every resource is prepared, and every connection is already arranged. When the time comes, provision will be waiting. This truth silences the worry of lack. It shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance, from fear to expectation. You stop asking, will I have enough? And begin declaring everything I need is already aligned with my purpose. A secured destiny also reframes the meaning of failure. To most people, failure is final. But in divine perspective, failure is feedback, correction, and redirection. It is never the end. It is simply part of the process. Even mistakes are woven into the greater plan, teaching lessons that prepare you for higher levels. You can walk boldly into risks because failure loses its sting. Instead of being paralyzed by the fear of falling, you move freely, knowing that even a fall places you closer to your destiny. If you remain aligned, confidence becomes natural. When destiny is secured, not arrogance, but holy confidence, the kind that stands firm in identity and calling. You no longer seek validation from people, because you know your path was chosen before the foundations of the world. You no longer compare yourself to others, because your destiny is unique and cannot be duplicated. You no longer fear competition, because what is yours cannot be taken, and what belongs to another cannot be forced into your life. This confidence frees you from envy and insecurity, replacing them with joy and assurance. Destiny security also breeds endurance. Without it, people often quit too soon, giving up at the edge of breakthrough. But when you know your ending is already secure, quitting becomes unnecessary. Why stop running when the finish line is guaranteed? Endurance flows naturally because your vision stretches beyond the present struggle to the inevitable victory. Every season of waiting, every stretch of hardship, and every painful process is endured with hope because you understand it is not the end. It is part of the journey. Another powerful truth about a secured destiny is protection. There are securing your destiny with divine alignment, unseen dangers you never encounter, not because you are lucky, but because your path is guarded. Plans formed against you dissolve. People who would harm you are removed from your circle. Situations meant to destroy you transform into platforms to elevate you. You are not unprotected in this world. You are shielded by the hand of the one who has secured your life. This is why you survive what others cannot. Why you rise from what should have broken you, and why you continue forward when logic says you should have stopped. Secured destiny also makes you a light to others. People are drawn to stability in an unstable world. When they see you walk with peace while others panic, when they see you rise with confidence while others shrink in fear, they are inspired. Your life becomes a testimony that destiny is not fragile, but anchored. You become proof that surrender to divine guidance leads to success that cannot be shaken. Others may question your methods, but they cannot deny your result. There is also joy in walking with a secured destiny. Not the fleeting joy of circumstances, but the deep joy of knowing you are in the right place, at the right time on the right path. This joy does not depend on possessions or achievements, but on alignment. Even in seasons of pruning, you can rejoice because you know fruit will follow. Even in seasons of stretching, you smile because growth is certain. Joy flows not from what you see, but from what you know that your life is meaningful, guided, and unshakable. When destiny is secured, you live differently each day. You wake up not with dread, but with anticipation. You approach tasks not with drudgery, but with purpose. You face challenges not with despair, but with determination. Every moment is infused with significance because nothing is wasted. Even ordinary days become extraordinary when you realize they are part of a greater plan. This awareness transforms your outlook on life. It shifts your energy, your decisions, and your relationship. The greatest gift of a secured destiny is freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from regret, freedom from striving for control. You are free to live fully, to love deeply, to give generously, to dream boldly. You are no longer chained by the question, "What if I fail?" Because you already know the answer. Failure cannot cancel destiny. You are no longer paralyzed by "What if I'm not enough?" Because destiny is not about your sufficiency, but His. Freedom unlocks creativity, courage, and compassion, allowing you to live the abundant life prepared for you. To know your destiny is secured is to rest in the truth that your story is not fragile, your future is not uncertain, and your purpose is not at risk. It is to walk through life with the steady assurance that everything is working together for your good and for the fulfillment of a higher plan. This security is not based on luck, talent, or chance. It is based on divine promise. And when that promise secures you, nothing can shake you, stop you, or separate you from the destiny already written in your favor. So now you stand at the threshold of destiny. Not a fragile path, not a path of chance, but a path secured by the very hand of God. Every step you take is ordered. Every challenge you face is already conquered, and every blessing you need is already prepared. You are not walking toward uncertainty. You are walking toward fulfillment. You are not chasing success. Success is chasing you. You are not building a life of fear. You are living a destiny that is unshakable, unstoppable, and undeniable. Say it aloud and let it sink deep into your spirit. My destiny is secured. My purpose is unshakable. My future is unstoppable. My life is aligned with divine promise, and nothing can take it away. Walk forward with courage. Walk forward with peace. Walk forward with confidence. For your destiny is not hanging by a thread. It is anchored in eternity. And when God secures your destiny, you can rise. You can thrive. You can overcome. And you can live abundantly because nothing, absolutely nothing, can stand against what has already been written in your favor.